Hey!
Actually... Please.
Hey!
Greetings.
Don't worry about it.
I'm afraid not.
So,
Hey.
I see. I'm not sure. Wait just a bit.
Ah!
Up.
What did you say? How dare you? Oh!
That's...
Now that you mention it, what's that?
Let's see.
Hold on!
Quit your whining.
Goodbye then.
Oh, great.
Thank you. Ah, thank you.
Pleasure to meet you. Pleasure to meet you. Hi there! Hi there! Pleasure to meet you.
Oh, that's amazing!
Pleasure to meet you. I've been waiting for
Ready to
you.
go?
Wanna come with me? Hi there! Huh? Huh? Huh?
Colours to choose from.
I'm Platypus!
Agents, by the way, don't like the word raid. They don't like it. It sounds like it's some kind of, extrajudicial, non-legal thing. It's the execution of a search warrant. It's a court-authorized search warrant. I'm sure we're now going to be in for days of ranting and raving. Even at CPAC over the weekend, there was a congressman from Arizona who called for the defunding of the FBI before this even happened. So we're in for more of that. I'm sure they're hunkering down for that, but the word raid, they don't like it. They want to say they executed a search warrant. All of that going on, meticulous searching. I've seen situations where devices, electronic devices, thumb drives are being searched for, and they actually have dogs. I'm not saying that dogs are being used, but if we see dogs as part of this team, it would be a clue that they're possibly searching for thumb drives and other electronic.
Hold up. Wait a minute. Something ain't right.
I've seen situations where devices, electronic devices, thumb drives.
Germany doesn't exactly have an innocent history when it comes to encouraging the population to spy on each other, does it? At its height, the East German Stasi had 175,000 informants on its books, one for every 100 people. They kept files on 6 million East German citizens, 1/3 of the entire population. So members of the Green Party in Germany have been thinking, why not bring that back? Great idea. German Greens Minister wants to establish centres for neighbours to report each other for political incorrectness. Josephine Paul, the Minister for Children, Youth, Family Equality, Refugees and Integration of North Rhine-Westphalia for the Greens, at a taxpayer expense of €140,000 for each facility, wants to set up 4 reporting centres where people can anonymously report other people who are behaving politically incorrect through hotlines. For example, incidents hostile to homosexuals, migrants, Muslims, blacks and Roma are to be reported, even those that are not criminal. Gee, what could possibly go wrong? A hard leftist, another grievance activist, going to completely abuse this Stasi-style PC hotline to frame their political adversaries for wrong things? Surely not. Bear in mind this is the German Green Party, the same party whose own members wanted to remove the word German from their own manifesto because they were worried it might be politically incorrect to call a German political party in Germany German. Oh, the absolute horror. If the Greens are so ashamed of Germany, asked one opposition politician, why do they want to govern Germany? German Green Party also recently released a PR campaign celebrating its future vision for the country. Posters for the campaign, however, betrayed one glaring absence. See if you can figure out what it is. Given that the population of Germany is 87% white, the German Greens are no small fry fringe party. They currently hold 118 of 736 seats in the Bundestag, after winning 14.8% of the vote in the 2021 election. They're now the 3rd largest of 6 parliamentary groups. And given notorious problems associated with the country's increasing diversity, the Greens are also keen for those who dare talk candidly about what is actually happening in Germany to be reported to the local Stasi Wrongthink Bureau for their politically incorrect thought crimes. To get exclusive content, early access, behind the scenes stuff, and to personally interact with me, please sign up for my community at pauljosephwatson.locals.com. Link in description, and thank you for your generous support.
All the noise out there. We know there are those who focus more on seeking power than securing the future, than securing the future.
Wanna come with me? Are you ready? I knew you'd pick me. Wanna come with me? Can I?
Am I the one you want?
Hi there!
Good morning, everybody. This is Diggs. It's another beautiful day out here in the Pacific Northwest, and unfortunately with the extended maintenance, we did not get to stream the patch reset last night, but we went through and did it all this morning, so we're going to go ahead and talk about it. Talk about the update to the boar, which was really unexpected. Also going to talk about some pet tickets and the other events that are going on. So let's go ahead and dig in. So I always like to point out when Netmarble does something good that actually makes me happy. So the first thing I'm going to open up with is actually a shout out to the fact that Netmarble actually sent us the turbans or the hats or the masks for the other classes that we ranked on in the Genie event. Now this was for hitting 5 million and 9 million damage. Turbans or the hats or the masks for the other classes that we ranked on in the Genie event. Now this was for hitting 5 million and 9 million damage. For those of you that remember and watched me do it on stream, I opened up all of the chests at once, and that caused me to lose the glamour items for my other classes. So shout out to them for recognizing this and sending these to me. I imagine other players who did the same thing probably had it sent to them. It was just a pleasant surprise to wake up to today. So kind of made me a little bit happy there.
Wanna come with
We
us?
do have a
We're
variety of
together.
events. What we're going to talk about though first is the boar. Now, you can get the boar from the cooking competition Eve event, and the boar has actually been a little bit more upgraded than the version that I
Pleasure to meet you.
talked about when we did my video initially on the boar, and it's actually really surprising. So the boar actually is getting a additional buff to what we had talked about previously, and this was what was in the Korean version of the game. So it's going to decrease partner party members' earth damage taken by 0.5%. Now, this is pretty important because what happened in Korea within the last couple of weeks, actually, is that almost all of the familiars received upgraded buffs. So many of them received upgraded buffs for party members. They also received updates to the AI priority and some of the priority of their familiar adventure abilities as well. Now, I haven't checked to see if the familiar adventure ability is the same. It looks the same as Korea. But what this could mean is that the familiars that are coming out in the future are going to have a different priority than what people might expect, because the familiars that are going to be released may actually be released with their modified Korean stats with them, making them potentially much more powerful and much more impactful than they initially were on launch for their respective familiars. So this is actually really big, and this is a really big thing that I think people are going to need to consider. And we can definitely do a video where we talk about what the familiar changes are for the future, but I think what we will do is just for any other future familiar videos when familiars are released, I'll talk about the two different forms, the original and the upgraded forms. But this could mean that future familiars are going to get huge buffs right now. We also do have the refresh of the Field 2 Season Boss surprise mission, so make sure you're doing that. Platypause is still going on, and then we do also have the Kingdom stuff happening right now too. Pretty important stuff in the shop, I would say. Definitely things to consider. You got a bunch of garbage in here, per usual. You do have a quick power-up check-in, which is really good. Gives you a lot of summon tickets for $19.99, definitely worth it. But they did add a new daily Territe pass for $4.99, and I think if you're anyone farming Territe or you're playing the game long-term, this is probably going to be worth it for minnows. Increases the effect of Territe energy by 200% in Chaos Fields. You're also going to get a daily Territe aroma. Now, you do only get a certain amount of farmable Territe per day, and I do wonder, a lot of players who are at level 80 or level 100 already are able to farm their daily cap of Territe already if they are farming in Chaos Fields. So this may not necessarily be needed for some people, but I think for a lot of people it will be pretty good, and it'll help you kind of close the gap here. So definitely important, definitely something to think about. In terms of the summon shop, now we are going to talk about the pets right now. The pet summon tickets can be purchased in a bundle for $19.99. You get 10 of them. You can only get 10 or 2 per account, so that's 1 per account. Or you can buy them in the Asterite shop. The Asterite shop sells 10 per week at 600 each, so 6,000 Asterite per week towards these pet summon tickets is probably what you're going to want to do. What's a little bit terrifying is kind of, as we talked about, as I was kind of dreading in the initial release of this, is that you can't initially roll the 5 stars. So what you're basically doing is you're rolling for a 3-star or a 4-star, and then you are going to have to use them in order to get a 5-star. Now, the 5-star does have some really unique features, such as the capability that when you are auto-battling, you can use your burst skill, which is insanely powerful, but it's, again, one of those things that's just like, you have to actually get the 5-star first, and the 5-star does require the fusion of 3 4-stars, and while I haven't seen the rate itself, I can tell you fusing a 4-star with 3 stars is 40%. My understanding is that it's either going to be 10 or 20%, and it also costs a boatload of Territe. We're talking like potentially upwards of 4,500 or more Territe in order to craft these. So these are going to be expensive, especially to get the 5-star. Now, they do have really good stats, and you can equip 2 of them. So you are going to want to make sure and Do that. You can see they also give like freaking, you know, like 500 attack, 1400 defense, prize drop up, HP recovery up. Like, they have some pretty good things going for them, right? Especially if you consider you can equip 2 of these and get the base stats from 2 of them. You will definitely want to decide which ones you want, but I think for most people it's not really going to be a choice. You're kind of going to get what you get, and that's going to be kind of the end of it. You can get some 3 stars. I currently have 3 stars equipped. There is some tricks to equipping them as well, which we can talk about too. So let's go to the equip screen, because I definitely messed this up initially when I was setting up my formations. It's not like they have a new pet menu here. And for me, when I came in, have a new pet menu here, and for me, when I came in, I just equipped my pets and I was like, okay, I'm good, right? Like, this is good, looks great, I'm happy. But what I didn't realize is you actually have to equip your pets on every single deck. So I went and I was farming other monsters, and I didn't realize I didn't have my pets on me because you don't see the physical effect of the pets. And I just assumed setting the pets that way would set the pets in all of my decks, but you actually have to set them in every single deck. So I think that's a pretty important detail that I think a lot of people might miss. You also get chests that do drop if you have the pets equipped. The chests themselves give additional territe, so you don't get any additional territe from the 3-star pets or 4-star pets just as they are. You get a chance to get a chest which drops additional territe, which is between like 6 and 9 territe. It's not a lot, and the chest doesn't drop that frequently, so the amount of territe that you're actually getting from the pets isn't that great. Could be different if you do get the 5-star pet, I suppose. But a lot of people aren't going to be able to get the 5-star pet for quite a while. They would have to get stupid lucky, because literally you're going to have to fuse that sucker, which means you're going to need 3-4 stars, which means you're going to need, I mean, I suppose someone could be lucky enough right now where they bought the packs to, you know, between 30 summon tickets to get it, and they have, you know, 3-4 stars, and they somehow got lucky enough to fuse a 5-star. I could see that happening, but for right now, it's not. I haven't seen anything, and I imagine I would have seen something by now, so it'll probably be a few weeks. We also don't know the stats on the 5 stars yet. You can't click on them in the codex to figure out what their stats are either. So right now, we don't really know what their effects are. There may be other resources to know what their effects are. So if you guys know those, please put them down in the description down below. But other than that, pretty much going to be farming territe most of the week. The kingdom event stuff, the kingdom capital stuff, starts at a really weird time today. It's like 10 p.m. Pacific time. So I'm like, dude, that's a weird time. And apparently it's happening at like 12:30 in the morning EU time or something. So we're gonna have to keep our eye on the time releases, because the time seems like it might be really weird for Kingdom Capital content. Anyway, everybody, I hope to see you guys on stream later today. I will be doing a lot of Tower of Fantasy, so I hope you guys are catching me there and sharing my lives out. And I hope you guys all have a great rest of your day. Remember, we are going to be on the Tempest server, so I'll catch you guys later.
Hey.
that I put out early last week on the ATF bullying a gun owner in Delaware, showing up to his house essentially with paperwork showing that he had some prior purchases of firearms, and they were just curious if he still had those firearms. Had no grounds to do that. According to everybody, the fact that they didn't have a warrant showed that there was no, quote, ongoing investigation. So it was just one of those things where you just felt like they were flexing a little bit on this guy and didn't have any real reason to. In fact, they were pretty much sent away relatively quick. They asked to see a few guns. They saw one gun and they said, hey, everything's good, and we left. Well, I made calls to the ATF, got zero response. Of course, in my message to them, I told them why I was calling, so I assume that's probably why they didn't respond. I did not try calling Delaware State Police, but Lee Williams from Ammo Land did. He actually tried calling the ATF and Delaware State Police. He had gotten no response until Tuesday. He got a letter back from the ATF that stated, "Good morning, Lee. Thank you for reaching out, and I appreciate your patience with my reply. ATF does not release the process in which it conducts investigations. I hope you have a great day. Amanda Hills, Public Information Officer, ATF, Baltimore Division." Now, she's saying in her comments to him that there may have been some kind of an investigation, because she's saying the reason why they're not commenting on it is because of their investigation process, which leads me to believe if she won't comment on that story, that must be part of that investigation process. Mr. Williams from Ammo Land actually got two responses from Washington Times and Daily Caller, with one of them stating the ATF defended itself in a statement to the Washington Times, saying the agent's actions were entirely appropriate. We are unable to comment on details of any ongoing investigations. However, interviews are an entirely appropriate part of the investigative process for any law enforcement agency. Of course, that was according to the Washington Times. The Daily Caller got a response that said a spokesperson for the ATF said they are unable to comment on the details of any ongoing investigation. However, interviews are entirely appropriate part of the investigative process for any law enforcement agency. On Wednesday night, another letter was sent from the ATF that stated the Delaware State Police partners with the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, Explosives, VA Task Force, model to help combat gun violence in our state by investigating potential illegal gun purchases made by individuals on behalf of others who are prohibited from purchasing or possessing firearms, also known as straw purchases. At times, this leads to interviews conducted by task force officers, which are non-custodial, voluntary interviews done in full compliance with all applicable local, state, and federal laws. ATF and DSP remain committed in our mission to reduce violent crime and help make communities safer. So they're clearly acting like this instance was an investigation. Okay, how much grounds did they have to conduct this investigation? Because again, no warrant was obtained for this quote investigation. And stating that this is voluntary, if they were more clear about this by telling this gentleman when they
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mr. Secretary, welcome. I agree with you, by the way, for what it's worth, about getting the money out on the streets, literally. See, I'm looking at your budget here. Your current budget is $12.5 billion. You're asking for $14.2 billion. Does that sound about right?
Yeah.
That's a 14% increase. You want an extra $1.7 billion.
Yeah.
Okay. Explain to me why the American people would be better off giving you $1.7 billion than taking that $1.7 billion and spending it on infrastructure. I did a little math, and for $1.7 billion, we can resurface a 4-lane highway from Washington to Denver. So why the American people better off giving you more money than putting it on infrastructure?
Well, thank you very much, Senator, and thank you for the question. It's a great question, and I think the way I would think about it is the $1.7 billion increase to the budget, my budget, is an investment in infrastructure as well. It's an infrastructure.
What? I'm sorry?
Infrastructure investment as well. It's an infrastructure investment in the American worker in this country. It's an opportunity for us to look at, as I think about the Department of Labor.
Well, do you believe excuse me for interrupting, I'm sorry, Mr. Secretary, we don't have much time. Do you believe that every expenditure by the federal government is an investment? What's the difference between an investment and an expenditure?
An investment is an investment in the future of workers. An expenditure is an expenditure in building a bridge.
Okay. Well, if you have a union background, which I respect and admire, if we took $1.7 billion that you say you need more to run your department, and we spent that on infrastructure, that's going to create a lot of union jobs, isn't it?
It's going to create a lot of jobs, but we're also not going to be able to educate the workforce that needs those new jobs that are going to be created off of that infrastructure investment of new bridges.
But they're already educated. The people building the roads are already educated. They're good at what they do.
Senator Reid just mentioned an issue around literacy in this country. So again, it's an investment in helping people to be able to be retrained and trained in the jobs of the future. I come out of construction. I work construction as well. The construction industry that I worked on in the early 90s and late 90s is different than the construction industry of today.
Yes, sir. Let me stop you for a second. I don't want to get too far afield here into a history of the construction industry. I used to work construction too. Let me be sure I understand what you're saying. When my constituents call me and they say, look, you're being asked to raise taxes to pay for infrastructure. Why, instead of putting $1.7 billion in extra taxes on us, why'd you give $1.7 billion to the Department of Labor? Why didn't you use that to infrastructure? Am I just supposed to say because the Department of Labor says they're going to make an investment? What metrics are you going to use this time next year to be able to prove to this Congress that your investment paid off better than $1.7 billion in infrastructure.
Well, before I answer that, let me just quickly go back to the tax question. I think the beauty for your constituents is that the infrastructure bills that's being negotiated right now does not raise taxes on the average American who earns under $400,000. So the average American is not paying for that.
That's not true.
Okay, well, that's not why
We have to agree to disagree. Let me move on, because I've got 1 minute left, and I like to stay within the time. Does your agency conduct surveys?
As far as employee surveys?
Any survey?
We do.
Okay. Do you pay people?
Pay the people to do the surveys?
No, to take the survey.
I actually don't know the answer to that.
Well, here's what I'm asking. I'm not.
I don't know. I don't know the answer.
I need your help finding something out. One of my constituents got this in the mail. It's a letter. I know it's not under your jurisdiction, from the Census Bureau, and they asked him to fill out a form on children's health, and he opened it up, and look what fell out: $5 bill. And there's no reference in the letter to the $5 in cash he got from the federal government. What's this all about?
I have no idea.
Can you help me find out?
I will help you find out.
I
didn't get one of those letters.
Well, I filled out my census, my survey. I want $5. And I understand that the Biden administration is also sending people $40 gift cards.
I doubt that's from the Biden administration, but I will look into it.
I looked it up. It's on the internet. It must be true.
I will look into it for you, my friend.
Would you?
I promise.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary.
All right, sir.
Senator Shaheen. Well, thank you, Madam
President. I asked my staff.
Hi there!
Ho ho!
To put together some inflation numbers, and they're just breathtaking. Gasoline up 50%. Rental cars up 42.9%. You need a used car or truck? They're up 26%. A turkey, 20.2%. Bacon, 20.2%. Beef, 20.1%. Pork chops, 15.9%. Bedroom furniture, 12% higher than last year. Eggs, 11.6% up. Televisions, up 10%. Frozen fruits and vegetables, up 7.5%. Chicken, up 8.8%. Shoes, up 8%. Baby food, up 8%. Children's clothes, up 7.6%. And that's too low. Unbelievable. Now, Mr. President, I believe in calling them like I see them. I think most fair-minded Americans know that President Biden is responsible for this inflation. You don't have to be Einstein's cousin to figure that out. But put the politics aside. The shame of all this is that the burden of these price increases are falling on the backs of the American people. And while Washington is obsessed with the politics of it, the American people and the people in my state have to bear the cost. A lot of people, Mr. President, as you well know, just can't afford to pay 50% more to fill up their gas tanks. They can't afford to have to stop and go arrange a bank loan to go to the gas station or to the grocery store. And unfortunately for Americans in my state and your state and across the country,
I've been waiting for
here with winter coming on, the cost of heating homes is also going up. Just in time for temperatures to fall. So the cost of heating is going up and the temperatures are going down. A lot of families are going to have to shell out up to 30% more for natural gas than they did this past year. Ask them if their income went up 30%. As our days grow shorter, the economic landscape, unfortunately, is getting darker. Thanksgiving is just around the corner. It's a cherished American holiday. But even the holiday that Americans observe in order to count our blessings is coming with new hardships. According to the New York Times, Mr. President, Thanksgiving 2021, and I quote, could be the most expensive meal in the history of the holiday. As I just mentioned a few seconds ago, frozen turkey is going to set you back 20% more than it did last year. If you want to enjoy, you like gravy with your turkey, well, get ready to pay 7% more for gravy. Maybe you don't eat meat. Maybe you're a vegan. Well, unfortunately, frozen vegetables are also going to cost you about 7 to 7.5% more. And the high prices only apply if you can find the food in the supermarket. Some of these food products you can't even find on Google. There's no guarantee that the cranberry sauce and the sweet potatoes will be in stock on dinner time. Now this is America. This is 2021. with the Soviet Union 30, 40, 50 years ago? My God. Washington ought to hide his head in a bag. Now, the official general inflation rate is 6.2% higher than it was last October. And that happens to be the largest increase in over 30 years. But we all know, and I can tell you, real people in the real world who go to the grocery store and the clothing store and pay their insurance bill and go try to buy an automobile know that it is not 6.2%. It is a lot higher. Now, I need to ask a question though. Are you really surprised? Are you really surprised that prices are rising when the Biden administration is printing money? When the Biden administration is exploding our debt? And they can't do it with inflation raging. This Thanksgiving,
Hey guys, welcome to the Liberal Hive Mind, a channel solely focused on exposing the abundant hypocrisy of the left. They really don't get it, huh? They don't get how ridiculous they sound when they finally admit the truth after months and years of denying basic reality or calling Republicans fascists or racists for saying the same thing for God knows how long. It seems as though these leftists have no sense of self-awareness at all. The Kamala Harris video that I made yesterday, where Kamala Harris thought it was just a genius idea for her to chime in on the Brittany Griner situation. She's clearly the last person to be speaking on that particular issue, but of course, zero self-awareness. During the early days of the pandemic, Nancy Pelosi showing off her chocolate ice cream on a late show and her $25,000 fridge in her lavish mansion, where people are literally starving and fired from their jobs. No self-awareness. Now we have Ilhan Omar, after promoting and enabling the exact policies that have led to absolute chaos in Minneapolis, Minnesota. Well, now all of a sudden Ilhan Omar is pointing out the unacceptable levels of homelessness and crime in the city that she and her Democrat allies and Democrat comrades, it's the only way to describe them, run, claiming that the current state that Minneapolis is in is unacceptable and wouldn't be accepted anywhere else, even though that exact environment is literally accepted in every single major Democrat metropolitan area. These people have zero self-awareness. Ilhan, it's you, and your Democrat friends, you guys. The total delusion, hypocrisy, disconnect from reality, and lack of self-awareness continues to hit epidemic levels on the Democrat side, folks, and we just gotta talk about it, so let's roll the tape. Alright folks, so this is the kind of stuff that you just wouldn't expect to hear coming out of a Democrat's mouth. Take a look at what Ilhan Omar recently said during an event.
The level of homelessness that we have, right, 5 years, nearly 5 years into the term of the mayor of Minneapolis who promised to end homelessness is shocking. No one would ever stand for that. There is no way any other city would be okay with that. People would riot. People would be angry to see the level of encampments that we have in Minneapolis. The amount of needles that we see. There's a clinic that just shut down that my kids used to use, Whittier Clinic, because they can't open their doors.
Now, what's the common denominator across the board when it comes to leadership in the city of Minneapolis? Of course, the obvious fact is they're all Democrats. And she claims that in no other city would this be tolerated. But Minneapolis isn't even at the top of the list when it comes to these kinds of problems. I mean, just talking about homeless encampments alone, San Francisco, Los Angeles, and Philadelphia certainly have you beat. You know, the problem actually is in these Democrat cities that you have tolerated and you have accepted this, And conservatives, and frankly not even conservatives, just regular citizens, have been calling you guys out on these issues for a really long time, and you've done nothing but exacerbate the problem. You know, it's real rich coming from Ilhan Omar, real rich coming from literally anybody who's a member of the Progressive Caucus. These are the last people that should be talking about high crime levels and businesses shutting down because communities have become unsafe, drug-infested, crime-infested, let's use the proper word here without getting in trouble, cesspools. Ilhan Omar creates the problem and then complains about it. Ilhan Omar, who's on the record claiming the Minneapolis Police Department should be abolished, not reformed, not defunded, abolished. And here she is 2 years later, complaining about a city that's out of control. You don't get the right to be that much of a hypocrite. I mean, by law, by definition, of course, in terms of what's actually legal, certainly, you could be the biggest hypocrite that you want, the biggest dummy that you want. But culturally speaking, you don't get to be that much of a hypocrite. It's almost like this is what the Democrats wanted in the first place. Cause chaos and then run and get elected on said chaos. Cause crime and poverty and homelessness, and then run on an agenda that claims that big government and government is going to solve all those problems. They created the problem in the first place, and now you think they're going to solve it? Democrats would be nothing without the problems they create. And we're seeing the exact same thing at the southern border. And it's really the same situation. All these Democrats all of a sudden are outraged about illegal immigration crossing into their territory. Finally, it's in their backyard, and New York Mayor Eric Adams has had enough. Eric Adams' New York City too crime-ridden for illegal immigrants. According to the New York Post, Adams said, "We were led to believe about 40 people should have been on that bus. Only 14 got off," and suggested that the migrants got off the bus earlier than their final destination because of the fear that something was going to happen to them if they came to this location. And we're concerned about that because we don't want people being dropped off just anywhere. Well, again, you don't get to be that much of a hypocrite. These are the same Democrats advocating for sanctuary cities, the same Democrats advocating for open border policies, where that's exactly what's happening. Illegal, unvetted migrants from God who knows where, who could be foreign agents, who could be criminals, who could be terrorists, are being allowed into the country to just slip and sneak and go where they please. That's the entire point. And now all of a sudden, now that it's finally affecting them, Democrats are voicing their concern. You don't get to voice your concern. Oh, and by the way, Fox News went on the streets of New York and interviewed some people about the southern border crisis and illegal migrants now being bused from Texas to New York City, and some of the responses were just incredible.
It wouldn't be happening with a different president, of course, a different administration, and it shouldn't be happening at all, but it should go back. They should put them all at the White House, out front of the White House.
The border is a federal responsibility. To think otherwise is foolish. Who is responsible for it? One person and one administration. Joe Biden.
Yeah, Joe Biden should get up his ass and do something about it.
I'm just going to say and repeat the same thing. You don't get to be outraged. You don't get to virtue signal on this issue. What's next? Democrats all of a sudden are going to start caring about the fentanyl crisis? What's next? Democrats are going to all of a sudden start talking about black on black inner city crime? The true greatest danger to young black life?
First of all, I'll say that I do believe in many ways we are a nation in mourning as a result of gun violence. Black people are 13% of America's population, and I think it's 62% of homicide victims to gun violence.
Well, what am I going to say? I'm going to say what I've been saying. You shouldn't be allowed to be this much of a hypocrite. It's unbelievable. These cities under Democrat leadership are deteriorating at an astonishing rate. I mean, it's sped up a little bit now, but really it's been a slow roll over the past couple of decades. And Democrats, after defending their track records, defending their job performance, and standing by things like no cash bail or San Francisco's pro-theft laws, I mean, the list goes on and on and on. Now they're going to signal moral outrage over crime, homelessness, dirty streets, and businesses unable to run in these environments. Give me a break from these Democrat politicians. Please vote them out. I mean, it's never going to happen. Wishful thinking, it's a fantasy of mine. But honestly, it's really the only solution. This is what happens when you refuse as a political party or political ideology to emphasize the importance of personal responsibility and just being good, law-abiding citizens and human beings. This is what happens when you enable and empower a degenerate culture that that continues to go downhill. This is what happens when you ignore reality and you live in some sort of fantasy land that everyone can be reformed, or that problems just magically go away if you throw taxpayer dollars at them, or problems just magically go away if you do nothing about them. Laws must be enforced. It's the only antidote to chaos, and that is the human baseline nature: chaos. And without enforcement of basic laws and basic societal standards, society plunges into chaos. And that's exactly what we're seeing, and it's your fault. And you don't get to complain about it now, after calling Republicans terrible, evil bigots and fascists for voicing their concerns over the last 20